Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to Ramadan transformation number 6. And today we're going to be talking about self-correction. Self-correction. Now that's a weird thing to be talking about, but a lot of the times when we think about correcting ourselves or improving ourselves, there's this kind of implication that, we're bad and wrong and we need to make ourselves better and, correct ourselves. That's not what I'm talking. That's not the self-correction we are going to explore. We're going to explore the self-correction, which relates to what we were talking about yesterday to do with the Nafs, because one of my students heard yesterday's session and said they didn't really get what I was talking about. Like, what has the Nafs? Okay, I get that you've got a high, that you've got a lower self and a higher self, but what does the Nafs have to do with self-correction? What does it have to do with thoughts and feelings and that kind of thing? That's a really brilliant question, and that's what we're going to cover today. The inside-out paradigm, the fact that you're only and always feeling your thought in the moment, is a paradigm of self-correction. It's a paradigm of kind of automatically checking your nafs. It's the paradigm of muraqabah and muhasabah in Arabic, like checking yourself. How does it work? Well, there's a really small, simple self-correction that needs to happen that makes everything else fall into place. And it's this. This is the way that you know if you're coming from ego or if you're coming from your best self. And the way that you know is this. I think it's going to be better if I draw it. But basically, it's like this. You're either inside out or you're outside in. Inside out or outside in. In other words, you either recognize that feeling comes from thought in the moment, or you believe that feeling comes from somewhere else. They are the two possibilities. And you might say that, well, if you're getting really technical, you might say there's a third possibility, which is here, which is that feeling comes from a mixture of thought in the moment and somewhere else. But actually, that's completely impossible, just like this is impossible. So this is it. This is the paradigm of self-correction. Now, how does that help you to correct yourself? How does that help you to know if you're coming from your nafs or if you're coming from your higher self? It's really simple. I want everyone who's listening right now and everyone who's watching, and you yourself as you're listening and watching this, I want you to write down some of the tough circumstances in your life right now. Maybe one of them is, I'm hungry. Maybe one of them is, I'm mad with my parents. Maybe one of them is, I think I want to leave my spouse. I want to get a divorce, or I got a divorce, or whatever. So just take 3 or 4 of anything that occurs to you as a problem right now. I want you to take 3 or 4 things and just write them down. And draw a line in the center of the page. And I want you to write them down underneath this section. So actually draw this on your page right now. You're going to need one of these. Okay. Get a page and draw this with a line down the middle. And I want you to write outside in and inside out. Feeling comes from thought in the moment here. Feeling comes from somewhere else here. And then underneath this one, I want you to write 3 or 4 circumstances. I'm going to give you a few from my own life, and we'll use that as an example. So for me, one circumstance is, let's say, got divorced. Another big one is my sister passed away. Another big one for me is I don't know. Let's say my dad is scary. Dad is scary. Okay. So these are things that happen. Right? So these are all circumstances of my life, right? Now, by the way, there was a time where this stuff would have really freaked me out. It would have psychologically paralyzed me, and did, right? Except for the second one, because alhamdulillah, by then I understood the inside out paradigm. But so yeah, write down some of the circumstances of your life. Now, what I want you to do is, on the other side, I want you to write down on the other side exactly the same circumstances. Literally, copy and paste. Same circumstances. Got divorced. Sister passed away. My dad can be scary sometimes. I feel so much love for him right now. I don't feel like he's scary at all, but I went through a lot of life believing that. So if you have an actual issue or problem or challenge or change you want to make, write down the circumstances, and then write down the same circumstances on the other side. And I'll look at that. Just look at it. And keep looking at it. When I say this is a paradigm of self-correction, it's because I want you to notice something. The line of self-correction is this line. And actually, everything on that side is completely false. It's not just false. It's ego. It's not just ego. It's impossible. It's not just impossible. It is so freaking impossible, you can't even imagine how nonsensically impossible that is. That never even can, it can't happen. The idea that the divorce can cause your feelings, or that somebody passing away can cause your feelings, or that someone can be scary, that your feeling comes from that, is impossible. The moment you see that, not only are you free, but you're pointing in the right direction. I want to draw a line for you here, which is that is the direction of ego. And that is the direction of Allah. So I say quite often, point yourself in the right direction. And what I mean by that literally is point yourself in this direction. Point yourself towards Allah. If you are sad, or if you are upset, or if you are angry, or if you are guilty, and you don't see that all of those feelings only come from thought, i.e. you're living in this illusion, then you're absolutely screwed. You're absolutely screwed. Because if that was true, firstly, that's impossible. It doesn't happen, and it's impossible for that to happen. And secondly, if that could happen, which it can't, but if it could, you would have so much work to do. You would have to fix your relationship status, bring somebody back from the dead, and then make a scary person not be scary, right? Make another human being change the way that they are. That's a lot of hard work that's required in order for you to feel okay. That's the outside-in illusion. Fortunately, it doesn't work that way. It can't work that way because that's the illusion. That is the truth. That is reality. Your feeling just comes from thought in the moment, regardless of the situations and circumstances of your life. So I hope that makes sense to you. So the reason I wanted to call today's session self-correction is because the correction, the discipline that you need isn't forcing yourself to do stuff in the world. It isn't making yourself wake up early every day. It isn't trying to manage the whole world outside of you. It isn't becoming more productive. All of those things aren't the criteria between whether you're coming from ego or not. The criteria between whether you're coming from ego or not is whether or not you see the truth of this line. Whether or not you can see that, oh, I'm in fantasy land, or, oh, this is reality. Every time you see the truth of this, it brings a lot of beauty and peace and happiness to your life. And if you're looking at this and it's not bringing you truth and beauty and peace and happiness, then you're looking at it, but you're not seeing it. That's okay. But you're just not seeing it. This is the paradigm of self-correction. You see, you'll notice something here. I'm not saying this is magically going to make your negative feelings disappear. What I'm saying is you can have negative feelings even when you're in your highest and best self, connected with Allah. And you can have negative feelings when you're absolutely disconnected with Allah. And there's a world of difference. I would rather be sad here than happy here. I would rather be sad inside out than be happy outside in. Because when you're sad inside out, it's a rich experience and it tends to pass a whole lot quicker too. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. May the peace, love, and blessings of Allah be with you always. And I'll leave it at that.